All right, and we're live. Um, Thanks for watching, everyone. This is episode 5 already of the West Ham Media Tour presented by Hammers Polls. Please subscribe to Hammers Polls YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter. Today, for episode 5, we have Lee from the American Hammers Network. Lee, how you doing, man?
I'm okay, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I've been looking forward to getting you on. You and Tim, Tim being your co-founder for American Hammers Network. You two were the ones that gave me the first opportunity to really start talking West Ham in a media podcast type of setting. So I'll never forget that. It's sort of led me to continuing to do this in some capacity for the last couple of years, and it's been a blast. So
Good.
thanks for that. I appreciate that opportunity. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, obviously lots to talk about. So I want to start off with the performance yesterday. Uh,
Right.
it was Kidderminster Harriers 1, West Ham 2 in the fourth round of the FA Cup. We're moving on to the fifth round, I believe, the first week of March. Um, I mean, Lee, it was one of the worst performances I've seen from a West Ham side
Yeah.
ever. I mean, I've only been following the team for around 7-8 years, but it was bad. It was bad. Thoughts?
Well, you're not alone feeling that way. My friend Ken, I've talked about Ken a lot on our show. He's a West Ham fan going back. He goes back far enough that he saw Bobby Moore play in person.
Oh wow,
So he said it's one of the worst games he's ever seen. So,
really? Okay,
you're going back 50 plus years there.
yeah,
I think it's funny, Justin. We did a show on Monday evening, and I said, jokingly, I said, there's part of me that wants to put out our full starting 11 and just throttle these guys. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And it turned out we needed our full starting 11 just to nick a victory in extra
yeah.
time. So, um, I, I don't, I mean, I think there are some toxic players in this team.
Mm,
I think Yarmolenko is one of them.
hmm.
Um, I don't know what has happened to Issa Diop, but he certainly has gone from being, if you go back a couple of years, he was supposedly a 60 million pound target for Manchester United, and now I don't think you could sell him to an MLS club. I don't think anybody would take him. So um, I think it was very telling that we had to bring Declan Rice in, that we had to bring Bowen and Cresswell in, and the kind of the regulars to right the ship. Um, because I think that everybody wants to see squad rotation. Everybody wants to see for us to play the kids, which we didn't really do. To be fair, yesterday we
No, we didn't.
didn't really play the kids. Those weren't the kids. Those were the reserves.
Yeah,
Crawl and Noble and Yarmolenko. But I think it just goes to show how thin our squad actually is,
hmm,
and what we've been able to accomplish with only probably 12 or 13 sort of Premier League level players. And when you take those guys out, it's really noticeable. Um, I think there's less effort. There's obviously less skill. But Kidderminster, that's a sixth division club.
all right.
And I follow Chelmsford City because I live in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. I follow Chelmsford City, and they are National League South, right? Kidderminster's National League North. It's the same level,
Same division, yeah, or
same
same
division. They're
tier,
just
yeah,
regionally split. Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, I've seen some Chelmsford City games. I follow the results pretty closely.
hmm.
These are part timers. I mean, these guys have jobs on
They're
the
not
side.
professional. They're not professional.
Right, it's
Yeah,
non-league. They have jobs on the side.
yeah,
Um, these are guys not far off of what we used to have in the NPSL here when Tim and I had a club. They're. I mean, this would have been the first time for a sixth division club ever to beat a top flight club in the FA Cup in the 100 plus years or however long it's been.
oh wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't
Wow.
know that either. I read it yesterday, and so we were literally minutes away from being a trivia question or an answer
Seconds.
to a trivia question. Seconds away from being an
Yeah,
answer to a trivia question. So um, there's no excuse in my mind for the performance today. No excuse at
yeah,
all. And I wish I could put my finger on what happened. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if they just took the match for granted that we were going to come out and easily win. Um, I feel as though if you look at Yarmolenko's body language, first of all,
Oh yeah.
let's give the guy a little space. He's Ukrainian, and that's a tough nationality to be right now. I mean, so I don't want to rake him over the coals too much because
Mm,
I'm sure
fair.
he has family he's concerned about, and
Hmm.
you know, if we were on the brink of having if we had 100,000 troops, it's hard for us to think about as Americans, but if we had 100,000 troops amassed at our border, I'm sure we'd be pretty worried about stuff too.
Yeah.
On the other hand, his performances for West Ham have been pretty consistently awful ever since that he scored that goal at Chelsea or against Chelsea, not at Chelsea, but against Chelsea after the restart, after the COVID restart. Um, he just his body language. He doesn't look interested. He took a dive yesterday that would have made Mo Salah blush. I
It
mean, he
was
took a
embarrassing. It was embarrassing
yeah,
to me.
but even Michael Owen cringed at that dive. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know why Moyes keeps coming to him, substituting him in play. I don't get it.
Hmm.
Um, Moyes has some sort of obsession with him, and I'm a big David Moyes fan, but he's got a sticking point with Yarmolenko.
Do you think it's more of an obsession, or more of just the fact that, I mean, again, it just goes back to squad depth. I mean, without Antonio, which we
Yeah,
were without him versus Kidderminster, you either got to put Yarmolenko up there or Bowen, and if you put Bowen up there, then you slot like
right.
Yarmolenko where Bowen is. I honestly, Moyes has a choice, and I hope moving forward that he chooses to play the likes of a Sonny Perkins or an Okaflex up top and keep Bowen on the wing, because I thought Bowen actually
Yeah,
had a poor match, and I think it was mainly because he was in a position that he's not a natural striker. He's on the
yeah.
wing. He needs the ball to sort of collect. He needs time to collect the ball and then attack his defender. So, do you think it's more of a fact that Moyes is obsessed with or likes Yarmolenko, or it's more so that he's doesn't feel like he has a choice?
Well, he doesn't like strikers for some reason, does he? I mean, he converted Fellaini when he was at Everton. He did the same thing with Arnautovic.
Yeah,
He's done the same thing with
Antonio.
Antonio. He doesn't like a pure striker.
Yeah,
Allaire didn't fit in well. A very good player didn't fit in well when he was with us. So I can see Moyes thinks of Bowen as Antonio's backup already.
yes,
He
yeah. He
said he
said
did.
that. Hmm.
So and I do try to trust Moyes with the youth because he sees them every day. He's around the club every day. He knows a lot more than we do. Everybody wants to play the kids, but then you see, like when Mipo came in against Manchester United last season in the FA Cup, he just wasn't ready. He just
Hmm.
wasn't. And now he's gone off the rails completely. I don't know what's going on with him,
Yeah, he got
but
recalled from his loan at Huddersfield. Right now, he's with a League One side, I believe. I forgot who. MK
yeah,
Dons, maybe, or maybe that's Coventry. I'm not really sure.
I can't remember. Well, Coventry's
Yeah,
another one who doesn't seem as though he's going to get there, but
yeah, yeah,
unfortunately, but yeah, because we want to play the kids, but then you play the kids and it's like they're just not really ready. So I want to trust Moyes on the academy side of things. On the Yarmo side of things, I think you're right. I think it's just squad depth. But again, I'm a huge Moyes fan, but he plays into that too. I mean, I don't know what happened behind the scenes with the transfer window. He gave a lot of lip service to the board and said, "Well, they've given me whatever I've wanted in terms of support." I don't actually think that's true.
yeah,
I think he's trying to keep his job by making them look good in public. Quite frankly, so I don't know, but in terms of why we see Yarmo, why we see some of these players over and over again, I think it's just lack of options, and he does tend to think more of experienced players. But you look at Yarmolenko, you look at his body language, you look at his lack of effort, and it's that's what's unacceptable to me. You have a guy go out
yeah,
there like a Carlton Cole was never the best player, but you never ever questioned his effort ever. And I never did, and I think a lot of fans will acknowledge that he wasn't a great player, but he gave everything he had. And Yarmolenko doesn't do that. And I think if you're a West Ham fan, all you ask is for effort,
yeah.
and he doesn't give it. So
Well,
uh,
speaking on who was worse, there's a poll that Tony Pearson put out, and I'll put it on the screen. It was who was worse yesterday, Diop, Yarmolenko, Crawl,
yeah,
or
I
really
mean,
can't determine.
Krawl's just not good enough. He's just not good enough. Every time we've seen him, he gives the ball away. He can't control the midfield. He's just not good enough. Look, he's a lone player. He's a young guy. We sent him back. It's not the end of the world, right? For squad depth, it would have been nice to have him, be a Premier League quality player. He's not.
No.
We just let it go. I mean, Diop to me is the mystery. Uh, when we
Yeah.
signed him and his first season with us, he was good to very good. I mean, again, when he paired with Balbuena, who I wish we still had, uh, he was. Well, as I said, there were rumors that Manchester United wanted him, that Mourinho at the time wanted him for Manchester United for £60 million. Which, can you imagine? I don't know if that was ever true, but man, would that have been a deal?
I mean,
So he's
there was never a bid, so you don't know,
right.
but
It was
yeah,
so it doesn't. If it was never a bid, it's a moot point, right? Because
yeah,
but the point is, he was wanted in Premier League circles, and I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if there's a Payet situation where there's a personal issue, or if he, I don't get it. But I
yeah,
would say of those three, if I had to choose one of those three, I would actually choose Diop because he doesn't have an excuse in my
yeah.
mind. Kral's not good enough. Well, there you go. Kral's not good
There
enough.
you go.
Yarmo doesn't want to be here. Diop should be better, and that's
Yeah.
why I would choose Diop.
And the
Yeah,
people agree with you, and I would also tend to agree with you. Issa is an interesting one because he's really, his form has just fallen off the face of the cliff. And I like Issa.
I do too.
I think he cares about the club. I think I don't think it's for a lack of effort. I literally think it's just he is so low on confidence right now, and
Yeah.
that obviously is a big part of an athlete's performance. And I've said this a couple times before, and I'm interested on your take on this, but
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember, Angelo Ogbonna. He came in that 2015-16 season, had a
Yeah.
great season, phenomenal season, and
Yeah.
then once we moved to the London Stadium, he, admittedly, along with a lot of other West Ham players, his form dropped.
Yeah. It
He
did.
got benched when Balbuena came in, and he really only got an opportunity through injury. From a Balbuena injury, who was starting alongside Issa Diop. Issa Diop was also ahead of Ogbonna on the depth chart at the time as well.
Yep.
Um, and ever since Diop came in, he's been one of the most consistent center backs in the Premier League. I don't know if Diop just needs that sort of that kick in the ass, that benching.
Yeah. He might.
He needs
Yeah.
to be on the bench. In my opinion, I think you should start a different center back, especially if Zouma's hurt, which we'll get to. But do you think that maybe would you actually sell him in the summer, or would you maybe give him one more year to potentially figure it out?
Well, I was disappointed we didn't buy. I know I'm mispronouncing his name, but we didn't buy
Uh,
Kaleta
Kaleta,
Car,
yeah,
Chaleta Zar, whatever his name is. That of all the purchases we didn't make, that seemed like the most damaging one.
yeah,
Um, the only reason I wouldn't sell him is because I don't think we can get much for him right now. I mean, if
fair.
somebody came in and offered, what would you take for him? I mean, what would somebody get? 15 million, 20 million? That seems like a lot right now for an out of
I mean,
form center back.
if someone offered 20 million for Diop, I think you'd have to
I,
consider that. I don't think you're getting that
I
bid though.
I would bite their hands off, right?
Right.
But I think the price is probably half of that at this point.
Oh, 10 would be, I think, the max you'd receive.
Exactly, which makes me think that
What's the point of selling him?
what's the point of selling him? Keep him for cover, or keep it and see if what you talked about with Ogbonna is true. He really lapsed and then he came back and he was very solid and consistent, and we've been missing him ever since he was injured. And I
Mhm.
personally don't think he's ever going to play for West Ham again, unfortunately.
You don't
But I
think
think,
so at all?
well, listen, that injury at his age, it's going to be tough to come back. Was he 34 or something like that?
I don't think he'll ever be a
Um,
consistent starter again.
I mean, I want to see him play again. I do, because he's a good, consistent player. He's been great for the club.
Yeah.
I worry that he's a Winston Reed, and then
Ugh.
it's just it's
I
if he
hope
doesn't
you're
have that.
wrong, Lee. I hope you're wrong.
I do too, because I love Ogbonna. It's just I think he's 34 and an ACL at 34. It's really going to be hard to come back and
Yeah.
be kind of Premier League class after that. But
Yeah.
no, I know it sounds weird. I wouldn't sell Diop only because I don't think we get anything for him.
Yeah. Fair
Um,
point.
let's see if David Moyes can get in his head. Because again, the guy's a total mystery to me. Does not have negative body language. Doesn't really seem to not put out the effort. He's just not good enough. But he used to be good enough. So it's
Yeah.
not like a crawl where you look at him and say he was never Premier League quality. No, he was. He's just lost it somehow. And I don't know why. If it's confidence, a lot of people have said put Zuma and Diop together. They speak French. They can communicate. There may be something to that,
Yeah.
but I no, I wouldn't sell him. As weird as that sounds, I would, but I certainly would bring somebody in to replace it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And on the topic of center back, Kurt Zouma at the end of that game picked up an injury, and he seemed to be writhing in pain on the pitch. Barely could put any weight on. I believe it was his right leg. It was weird because he sort of stepped on the ball and
Yeah.
wobbled a bit. But if you look at the replay, I'm 99% sure he wob the leg that stepped on the ball was his left leg, but he was
Hmm.
holding his right. And if you look, he wasn't putting any weight on his right, and he was only
Yeah.
kicking with his left. It was very odd. We'll get to that in a second, but
Yeah.
another question from Tony. So Zuma picked up an injury. If he misses time, so let's talk about the Tuesday match. If he misses time, out of those four pairings, who would you pick to start?
Well, I mean, this is a tough question because Alessi looks like a good player, but that jump from under 23s
Yeah,
to the Premier League is gigantic. I just
right.
don't think people help. I don't think people realize how big a jump that is. That under 23 level is kind of a League One type level in my view. When you see those guys often go on loan to League One and they don't play or they're not good enough.
Yeah, it's a fair comparison. Yeah,
It's a big difference. Um, I think people are going to hate me for this. I think you almost have to continue starting Diop and Dawson just for the
mm,
sake of experience. I like Alesi. I like Baptiste. Um, my only other thought is maybe you go to a back five or a back three with wing backs, and you have maybe you slot Cresswell in with Ben Johnson or Sufal and Dawson in the middle, and you do something like stick Masuaku again, which I hate, but
yeah,
as a left wing back, or even Fornals as left wing back, because he's obviously not a defender, but he's probably a better defender than Masuaku. But if you're going to have two center backs, I hate to say it, I think you got to stick with Diop only because you know what you're going to get from him. I know that sounds
yeah,
weird, but you know what you're going to get from him. Unless you throw that kid in there, he has a terrible match, could wreck him for years to come. You know, same with Baptiste. The only. But let me just say this: we threw Ben Johnson in against Manchester City like what 2-3 years ago
yeah,
in his debut, and I know we lost that match 1-0, but he played extremely well, and he's gone on to be a critical player for us. So
yeah. You make
maybe
a
that
good point.
happens. You know,
You make a good point about Alesse or Baptiste, whoever we throw in there, their confidence. Young players, you don't know. If they have a bad game, will they rebound? I mean, you look at Issa Diop; he's had bad game after bad game after bad game. He's yet to rebound, and he's an experienced professional. So, I
yeah,
do agree. I
yeah,
think obviously going back to what you said about trusting Moyes when it comes to the academy, you know, the question is, does Moyes trust Alesse to perform admirably, I guess you could say? And two, if he doesn't, do you have the confidence that he will rebound and that you can stick with him? Because I think playing a youngster,
yeah,
him playing badly, and then taking him out because he played badly, that's probably even worse than just throwing him to the wolves,
yep,
having him have a couple rough games, but sticking with him. So I think we'll get that question answered by David Moyes on Tuesday when he puts out the lineup. I
hmm
think that you'll see number one. I think you'll see
I
Dawson
do
and
too.
Diop.
I would if I'm not a gambler, but if I were, I'd put money on it. I would put money
Ooh,
on it.
look at that.
Yeah, no, I
I
I
picked
don't.
three.
The answer doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that's wrong.
yeah,
Because we all know that Diop's having problems. We just don't have cover, And I go back to Meepo again. Throw him out there in a cup tie against Manchester United. He comes in as a substitute. He gets substituted later in the match. He just wasn't ready, what's happened to him since? I'm not
yeah,
saying it all comes down to that one match, but he's never come back up to standard. And I know there have been other players like that as well. You remember Freddie Sears had a great goal in his debut, and
yeah,
everybody said, "Oh, Freddie Sears is the next Dean Ashton or whatever." I think Dean was still playing at the time, but and then I it just wasn't. It just wasn't.
yeah,
He just so I don't want to see that happen to these young guys, and I have to trust Moyes' judgment. Um, although, yeah, I'm as terrified as anybody sees a Diop back there.
yeah.
I-
Well, we shall see. I mean, it's obviously a big game, one that we certainly need to win. Watford at home,
yeah,
definitely need to win. Let's talk a little bit about Declan Rice. Obviously, he came in and changed the game yesterday.
Yeah,
We don't win without him, and
right.
it really. I think the game just was a perfect highlight of what we are without him,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how we need to start preparing for life without him, whenever that is, because it will come, whether it's
Of course it will.
this
Yeah,
summer or the next. It will happen.
yeah.
It would be very surprising if he stayed with West Ham his entire career. And fair play to him; he's a world class player.
Of course.
But without him, I mean, I think we're a side that would struggle to get into the top 10 of the Premier League. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, the question that a lot of people are asking is, trying to take into the whole season into account, and also the potential trophies that we could win. I mean, we're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Europa League, and we're still battling for a European spot in the Premier League. Does Declan Rice stay this summer? Will he be playing for West Ham next season? What do you
Um,
think?
well, I've always said that we should give him whatever he wants in terms of a contract because he still hasn't signed a new one. I know his contract runs for another couple of years, I think.
Let's assume that he has 3 years left
Yeah.
after this one.
Oh, 3 years.
Let's
Okay.
assume let's assume that West Ham offer him whatever he
Right.
wants, and
Right.
he still doesn't sign it. He still wants the
See,
flexibility. Does he play next
yeah,
year for West Ham?
I let me just say that I've always wanted to build the entire club around him.
Right.
It's pretty clear that we're not going to do that. Now I know we say the club have said over and over again he's not for sale, but this January window revealed a lot to me about the ambition that the club has and that the owners have, which is not very much. Um, I'd be shocked if he and Bowen are West Ham players come next season. I'd be shocked, both of them, but especially Declan. And I'll tell you why, Justin. I mean, it's first of all, it's the lack of ambition on the part of these owners, which we know about. Um, if you want to blame David Moyes for the January window, that's fine. But we all know that the problem has started at the top for the last 10, 12 years, and it's always going to be there until they're gone.
Right.
The other thing is, let's say we qualify for. Let's go into fantasy land and say we win the Europa League and we qualify for Champions League. All right. I
Hmm.
know that sounds insane after yesterday, and maybe it is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
But the point is, let's say it happens. All right. Let's say we draw Sheriff,
Hmm.
Moldova, and whatever. You know what I mean? We shithouse our way through basically. Um, so West Ham, we're not winning Champions League. All right. We're not probably going to get through a Champions League group phase, to be honest. West Ham, we're just not.
Hmm.
Europa League is a different story altogether.
Right.
We start going up against, I don't know, Bayern, Juventus, and huge European clubs. We're not making it through that. So even if we qualified, Declan Rice is going to get offers from clubs that can win Champions League, like Chelsea and Manchester City, and maybe even other clubs in Europe. And I think he's going to go to one of those because his first of all, his buddy Mason won it last season with Chelsea, and that doesn't
Hmm.
help.
Hmm.
Big pals with Mason there.
Hmm.
But I think the other thing is, even if we honestly, even if we spent, £200 million again on players and we showed ambition and we qualified for Champions League, and none of this stuff will happen, by the way. But even if it did, he still has options that are better than staying at West Ham in terms of winning now. He's going to have, what does he have, 150 appearances for us, I think, at this point, or more than 150.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
think he got 150 towards the tail end of last season, or maybe the
okay,
beginning
so
of this season.
so
Yeah.
he's going to crawl up toward like 200 for us, and that's, I mean, it's a lot. I know he's a young guy; he's like 21 or two, but uh, I think he'll go somewhere where he can have a realistic shot at winning Champions League season after season. And let's be honest, that's not West Ham. Even if we were to
Right.
pull off a miracle and qualify, that's not here. I think he'll go, and all I hope you know is that David Sullivan sticks to his word and says 100 million minimum for this guy.
Yeah.
The fear I have is that we'll sell him for 100 or 120, and then we'll blow it all,
Yeah,
waste
that
it.
that's that would be worst case scenario, right? It would
Because
be
you
worst
could,
case
because
scenario.
right, because Tottenham sold Gareth Bale and actually did okay with the money, right? I mean, they brought in Ericsson, they brought in some player. They didn't really replace Bale, but they did well enough that they were in a Champions League final. That they were. I mean, they've become unfortunately contenders in the Premier League. I mean, they've managed themselves relatively well.
Yeah.
Even though we don't like to admit it, it's true.
Yeah.
If we could do that with Declan, if we could sell Declan Rice for 100 million plus, and then we can go out and say, all right, now that's a striker, that's a center back. We'd have to replace him
Yeah.
somehow, in defensive midfield. But you could do that with championship players. You can't really replace Declan, but you can get championship players or players from places like France, players from some of the lower tier European competitions like we have. You can bring in some good players for that
Yeah.
kind of money. If we can do that, I think we can use his sale as a jumping off point for getting better. The problem is historically West Ham have never done that ever.
Right.
We've never sold a player and gotten better. We've always gotten worse.
Yeah.
You go back to Rio Ferdinand or Frank Lampard, or you go back to the 1920s. Read Chuck Corr's book about the history of the club, and Sid Pudfoot. We sell him, and do we reinvest the money? No, they took the Rio Ferdinand money and built a stand. You know, built a stand on a stadium that's not even there anymore. So so no, I don't think he'll be with us. I wish he would. I do think he loves the club. I really do.
I do. I do.
But he's a young guy, and he's ambitious, and he's got friends who are winning stuff, and he knows, especially after the Euros he just had last summer, the season he's having this summer, if he's healthy at the end of this season, I think he walks wherever he wants to go, into any club in the world, basically.
Yeah. It's a complicated one. I'm of the mindset that he will be with West Ham next season, and
I hope so. I desperately hope so.
I
do.
hope so as well. And I do think that um, if he were to go this summer, it would be the worst case scenario, because I do think that you know I guess I'm hoping that there's some plan, or at least Kretinsky and Moyes are at least beginning to discuss plans post GSB, because I do
Yeah,
think
same
GSB.
here.
I mean, let's
Yeah,
let's.
yeah.
It does seem that GSB are going to be out after next season. We're not
I
that
think they will
far
too.
away,
Yeah, I think they
and
want to sell up or sell out.
oh, I think they definitely do, and I think the whole Kretinsky sale was setting that up for that,
I do too.
and assuming that's the case, and assuming Kretinsky is his net worth is 4 times combined what Gold and Sullivan are,
Right.
roughly 4 times, maybe a little
Right.
less. Hopefully there's a plan in place, and there's some dialogue with Declan moving forward about, listen, we can't buy anyone. We're going to invest a little in the summer, but it's really going to be 2023.
Yeah.
Stick with us.
Yeah.
And whether that works, I don't know, but I think that he will be in a West Ham uniform next season. Mainly just because the club has all the leverage. 3 years left on his
Yeah.
deal. And I don't think, you mentioned he loves the club. I don't think he will really push. He may say, consider this offer, but if Moyes goes to him and says, we need you this season, I think Declan stays. I really think Declan stays. He doesn't need to go to a top tier team right now. He's still so young. He's
He's so
22.
yes, that's true.
He's
He's
got his
still
whole
young.
career in
Yep.
front of him.
Yep. Well,
And
hopefully he does. Yeah, barring an
yeah,
injury, of course.
yeah, not knock on
Yeah.
wood, but he's already an England international. He doesn't need to get any more playing time to play. None of
Right.
that. I think he stays. I really do. And maybe it's wishful thinking, but
No, you
I,
make
I
you make
think
a
he
good argument
stays.
actually. You make a great argument about him being in the England squad, a regular with England. He doesn't have to prove himself for the big club. I do think he loves the club, and I hope we should be cautious about Dan Kretinsky, because yes, he's wealthier than Gold, Sullivan, and Brady. He's not Saudi Arabia. He's not Dubai. He's not a Arab oil billionaire with hundreds of
Right.
billions of pounds to spend. However, he would significantly increase the amount of money, hopefully, he could put into West Ham compared to Gold, Sullivan, and Brady. Also, his record with Sparta Prague is like they win titles, but they always have won titles. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you look at them, the 10 years before he bought the club and the 10 years after, they were better the 10 years before.
Mm,
So we should be a little cautious about Kretinsky being the savior. I think he's going to be better than Gold, Sullivan, and Brady, obviously.
yeah.
But this is not Roman Abramovich. You know what I mean? This is not Fenway Sports Group. This is a guy who, with a mixed record and some money, but he's not going to make us into the next, Chelsea. On the other hand, I hope the same thing you do. John Nolan always said something on our show that struck me, which was, if Declan Rice is worth 100 million pounds, that's about 20% of the value of the entire club.
Yeah.
Roughly, maybe a little bit less. But I know
Yeah.
Sullivan would want to sell it for between 500 and 600 million pounds, something like that. And what did Southampton go for? Southampton went for something like 200 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know they're a smaller club. But we don't own a stadium. Our facilities are extremely poor. All of our value is in the lease on the Olympic Stadium, which doesn't actually have a lot of value, because we don't own it, and in the players and in the large fan base that we have, basically, and the fact that we're in London, which I think is very important. Um, but if Declan Rice is really worth that much, then that's a large chunk of the value of the entire club. So I think that actually strengthens your argument, Justin, that he might stay, because I think they're looking at him and saying, we don't really want to take 20% of our value and just ship it off, you know, even though we get the money for it. So I really hope he stays. And I don't think he would push. It's just that if you have Manchester City is the one that scares me the most. I don't think he wants to go back to Chelsea, even though his buddy
You
played at
don't.
Chelsea, because Chelsea rejected him. And the only reason he'd go
Mm.
back would be for Mason Mount, because he and Mount are tight and they've known each other since they were kids. And I get that. That's I mean, I really do. If you're an athlete and your best friend is out there, you want to have those childhood dreams together. That makes total sense. If my buddy John Clark, I grew up with, had signed, I had become a Dallas Cowboy, as we all thought we were going to when I was a kid, right? And I had, I would have wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy right there with him. Okay, so I understand that, instead of a Redskin or an Eagle or whatever. So I get that, but I think Manchester City is the one that worries me most,
Mm.
because they are consistently competitive. They will always have the money. They have probably the best manager in football, and they can step in and say, "All right, we'll give you 250 a week. We'll give you whatever you want. And we'll give you the chance to win Champions League every season, season after season after season." That's the one that scares me the most, and it'd be hard for him to turn that down. And I wouldn't turn it down if I were Declan Rice. I wouldn't do it. I've left a good job for a better job. I've been recruited from one job to another, and it was a tough decision, and I missed everybody, but I went. So I mean, I could see him doing that too.
It could happen, Lee. It definitely could happen. I do
But
think that
hopefully we get in one more season,
I
because,
think we
as you
will.
said, I think if we get, I mean, I do. I'm with you on this. If somebody is saying to him, "Look, Declan, these Gold, Sullivan, and Brady, they're almost gone. This Czech guy's going to step in. He's got experience as a football owner. He's got money. He's going to invest. Hang with us. Hang with us. You're
Mhm.
20. Was he 21 or two? I think
22.
he's 22. Hang with us. The best years of your career are probably going to be between, say, 25 and 30 anyway. That's the way it is for most players. Just stick with us. I hope that's happening.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, who do you think? And this is a poll. Who? Let's say Declan Rice leaves. Obviously, Noble's
Yeah,
gone. Who's captain next year?
it's
Cresswell's
100%.
in. Let's
It's
check
it's
other.
it's it's Cresswell for me 100%.
Yeah,
Because he's English, and he is experienced. He's been with us a long time.
yeah,
The man has revived his career of these last couple of seasons. I mean, he looked done a couple of years ago, just done.
yeah.
Everybody was
He
down
really
on
did.
him, which gives me a little hope for Diop, right? Because remember, Cresswell
That's what I'm
was
saying.
was the guy we all beat up on, and I have always loved him. But I said myself, look, I think his time at West Ham is over. I think his time in the Premier League is over. And then, Moyes comes along, he pairs Masuwaki with him, and Cresswell suddenly becomes one of the better left backs in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's 100% Cresswell for me. It doesn't have to be an English captain, but we have a lot of English players. We have a culturally English team, if that makes sense. And I think you go from Noble to Declan to Cresswell, and it's a smooth transition. So.
I agree, and as you can see, most people agree with you. And it's a great point you make about Cresswell. And people don't remember, or maybe people do. When Moyes came in, he actually played. The beginning of last season, we played a back five a lot with
Yes, we did.
Masuaku as a wing back, and then
Yep,
Cresswell as a left center back.
that's right.
And you remember when we always used to say, Cresswell can't defend at a back four. He doesn't have the pace anymore. He can't handle those
Exactly.
pacey.
I said it too. Yep,
Yeah, and it was true.
it
But
was
then
true. Yeah,
you
it
put
was
him in a
true.
back five. He plays well. He gets that mentality right. He gets that confidence going again. And now you can stick him in a back four and he's fine.
He's fine. He's the best left back we have, obviously,
Mhm.
because Masuaku can't defend.
Yeah,
Um,
he's not a left back, man.
he's not a left back. He's a winger. He's a half decent winger. That's all he is. But yeah,
He's a
we
winger. I
were.
mean, that's true. That's what he is. Yeah.
That's all he is. He's a cover. He's
I
cover
like
left
him,
wing.
but
Oh, I like him too. I don't. I mean, again, he's not a problem.
it's not that good.
You don't want guys around who have attitude problems. We don't have those guys except Yarmolenko, I think, is one.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, everybody was down on Cresswell. I was down on him. Thank you for your service, but you got to go. Moyes turns him around, and so it gives me a glimmer of hope that we can do that with this Issa Diop because we
Yeah.
saw that he can play. If he'd never been a good player, that'd be different.
Yeah.
But he was, and
Yep.
hopefully he can be again. I just
Yep.
don't know about Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, we
maybe
shall
not by
see.
maybe not by Tuesday. Yeah.
We shall see. So Lee, we'll begin wrapping up, man. Again, really
Mhm.
appreciate the time. I do want to though share your poll.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
was I came up with it while I was teaching Sunday school on Zoom this morning.
No, it's a good question though, because it sort of sticks on theme of what we've been talking about. Obviously, I think these four players have gotten a bit of slack over this season, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Three of these four played yesterday and were atrocious. I mean, really
Yeah.
atrocious. So,
Yeah.
so the question is, if you had to keep one of the following players, which one would you keep? So, Lee, it's your question. I'll let you answer it first.
I answered Fredericks, and not just for my buddy Wally, who loves Fredericks so much. I think he's cover at right back, and he can be competent when he steps in,
Mhm.
um, which is a little counterintuitive to what I've been saying about Diop. But if you can get a deal for Diop, if you can get 15 million for Diop, let him go. You know what I mean? Fredericks, Masuaku, Yarmolenko, these guys aren't really worth anything in the market. I think Fredericks is covered. What we need is cover. So I went with Fredericks. But oddly enough, Diop be my second choice out of these four, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I'm actually gonna pick Diop, and well, Fredericks is what the people say.
But Diop's not a bad. But see, that's not a bad choice to me. What's he
Yeah,
still 23, 24? I mean,
24, I think. Yeah,
we know he can play. He's done it before. Um, you know, I
25
Fredericks.
actually.
Okay, well, he's a little older than I thought, but that's still pretty young.
Yeah, yeah.
The only reason I chose Fredericks myself was because I don't think he's always been okay. He's a squad player. That's all he's ever going to be. Yarmolenko is a problem. Arthur, it just doesn't have a place in our team with his style.
I agree with
And
that. I agree with that.
I
Yeah.
just don't think he fits into Moyes' system. So it's between Fredericks and Diop, and you know, I think Fredericks has done less wrong, basically. But I
Okay.
mean, but I wouldn't, again with this, if we could get this guy turned around, he could still be a great defender.
Yeah, I'm wondering because I know Fredericks is out of contract at the end of this year. I'm wondering when Issa's contract runs out. It runs out. Oh, so he has one more. He has one more year after this one. So,
My favorite West Ham shirt that I own is an Issa Diop shirt. That if you remember that blue, that sort of Easter egg blue that we had a few
mm,
seasons ago
yeah,
with the yellow badge. Well, that's what's in my little avatar picture that Ken
yeah.
Lynn did for me. That's the shirt I'm wearing. That's my favorite, and it's an Issa Diop shirt. So that's one of the reasons why I hope he hangs around.
Yeah.
I've got
Don't
an
waste that money.
Arnautovic. I've got an Arnautovic, and I've got a Matt Jarvis. Believe it or not, from years ago. I've got a bunch of shirts, and anyway, I still wear them, even they're an out of it shirt.
Yeah,
But I
we have
love
a
that Issa
running
Diop
joke
shirt.
with one of the Chicago Hammers. He gets a jersey every year, and every year that he's gotten a jersey, that player's gone by the next season.
I look at their contract status before I buy it because this would,
Smart.
So I bought a Cresswell already. I usually wait till the end of the season, but I bought one of those Argentina Cresswell shirts because I really
Oh,
like that
nice.
shirt without the sponsor. I think it looks really nice.
Yeah.
But I've got Issa and I've got, I can't remember who else going. But the only one that was a real impulse buy was Arnautovic that season. He kept us up, and then he ended up
Hmm.
flaking on us, and so that's the only
Yeah.
one I really regret. But I bought a Lanzini instead of a Payet years ago, and I'm very proud of that. So,
Good call. Good call.
yeah, I gave my buddy a Payet and bought a Lanzini for myself. So anyway,
Yeah, I've already decided my next jersey in terms of who I'm gonna have on the back. It's gonna be Pablo. Love me
yeah,
some Pablo.
that was a big candidate for me too. I was hard to say. It was hard to determine whether it was going to be Fornals or Cresswell. Uh, I love Declan, but it's almost too obvious a choice. And
I don't know. He might
Mark
not be
Noble.
around much longer either.
That's the other thing. He might not be around
Yeah.
much longer, and he's young enough that if he does go somewhere else soon, he's going to be a like Ferd or like Rio or Frank Lampard. He's going to be a superstar for somebody else
Yeah.
for like a decade.
Yeah. He will be. He will be.
Yeah.
But Lee, thanks, man. I appreciate
Oh,
the time. It's
anytime.
always great talking to you. Yeah, and you're doing great stuff with American Hammers Network. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I guess I always let people sort of tell everyone who's watching or listening where they can find your work. I mentioned it, but you want to
Oh,
give a little
sure,
shtick for
sure.
a little spiel for yeah.
Yeah, if you look it up on YouTube, it's actually still American Hammers TV,
Oh, okay.
which is what we originally were. And American Hammers Network includes a podcast that's kind of on again, off again. But if you look up on YouTube, it's American Hammers TV, or look up American Hammers Network on any of the social medias, and will pop up. You can follow me on Twitter. That's my own personal account. There's an American Hammers Network account too. I think it's American Hammer 3,
Hmm.
because I came up with the name, and I obviously am not good at coming up with Twitter handles. So they turned out to be American Hammer 3. I post a lot more than American Hammers does. So
Yeah.
if you want to follow me, that's fine. We do. I have been trying to do Wednesday night shows, but I lost my voice for like 2 weeks. My kids have both had COVID. It's been a chaotic couple of
Mhm.
months. So we're trying to do, but keep a lookout for our shows. Katie usually does a Thursday night. We always do post match with Chris and Irish Tommy about half an hour after the game. And Saturdays now, some guys Justin, Lucas, and Charlie Walsh,
Mm.
and Alan Rezepa. I don't know how to say his last name. And Kostya are doing a show on Saturdays called "In Case You Forgot." That's really good, actually. They do a really great job with that.
I'll have to check that one out.
It, our show, as you know, tends to go for like 3 hours,
Yeah.
and occasionally we talk about West Ham when we're not coming up, when I'm not making pop culture references to the 80s, or you know what I mean, or pulling up names of athletes with funny names, or something stupid like that. So eventually it rolls around to the football, at some point.
Great.
So,
Yeah, you guys are doing great stuff.
well, you
And
are
again,
too. You are too. And
thank you.
listen, congratulations. Hammers Pulse is fantastic, and
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. I'm glad you're enjoying it and doing well. And yeah, you've done a lot of good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Lee. Yeah, and yeah, thanks again for coming on, and come on, you Irons.
Yeah, come on, you Irons.